awesome.
Awesome.
That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No, you're awesome.
You are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously. Awesome. Awesome.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. But first and foremost, I think it's very important to say, especially since we're recording this at the end of 2016, that 2016 can eat a big old bag of dicks. 2016 has been an awful year for personal reasons, for pop culture reasons. I feel like, based off of today's news, at least the day that we're recording this, we'll probably get into that almost right away. I'm not going to have an extra long intro this time because I feel like the last time I sat down and spoke with our guest, when I was a guest on his show, we pretty much got the introductions out of the way and did like a combination of both our shows almost. So let's just welcome to the show Chris from Let's Chat with Revill and maybe I'm pronouncing that last name wrong.
No, you got it right. I was impressed.
Nice. Oh, shit. With Revill and Friends. Thanks for doing the show, man.
Oh, no. Thank you so much for having me on. We basically have similar shows.
Yeah, it's funny. Right before we got connected to do the recording tonight, I hopped on Twitter to let you know that I was running a little late. And I saw you, plug awesome podcast. Everything is awesome.
I was just like, it's
Twitter.
like my show, but better. Because it's
Which
true.
is funny because every time I'm a guest on anyone's show, it's typically my show, but better, including yours. I feel like Let's Chat is a much better show than mine.
Oh, I disagree, but thank you.
Oh my God. You know what? I was doing as you know, I think we discussed it on your show. I do very limited research on my guests to keep the conversation more natural. So today, I was like, I'm 99% sure his name is Chris, but I don't want to get this wrong when I'm setting. It was right when I was sending you your link. So I was like, let me just double check. So I Googled Let's Chat, and like the results that pop up are like, it's just amazing to me. Like there was one of your episodes were reviewed in the Huffington Post, and that's like one of the top 5 results. And then like I just scrolled through the feed, like your episode feed. And I'm like, God damn, like. I'm actually going to start off, even though I just said we were going to start talking about why 2016 is a big old bag of dicks. I want to ask one question about like what's your process to book a guest? Because me, like I guess I book a lot of like podcasters, mainly podcasters. I'm very lucky that I get like a lot of guys who are just, I'm sure super busy and are way more qualified than me to be doing this long form conversation podcast. But like, getting the what I would call names seems to be, and maybe that's not the right terminology, but getting like the higher profile guests. I've only done it once. Though I almost consider you a higher profile guest, based off of your guest list.
I'm blushing. Like, no one can see this, but I am blushing.
It's kind of like I'm looking at it. I'm like, he's like, now this is a guy who I think is up there in terms of the podcasting world, and I don't know how many people know him, but Andrew Zarian from Guys from Queens Network or whatever the podcast network is called. I've known him for years, and he's like he was on the cover of one magazine, and they dubbed him the king of new media. Wow. Like years and years ago. And I don't know, like I don't know if he's that level anymore. I think that just new media has advanced so much that he's not that level anymore. But I still look at him and like, man, he's fucking doing it, dude. And like, I looking at your guest list, I'm like, he's fucking doing it. So like, I rank you up there as like my higher profile guests. So how do you go about booking your guests, and how do you get, like, I can usually get zero response from higher profile people.
Oh, well, prepare to be disappointed. Wow, geez. So I have been doing it for like a few years, and I think maybe nobody listened, or not nobody, but my numbers were very low for maybe 2 and a half, maybe 2 years, 3 months. It wasn't until about a year ago where things actually kind of took off. Like if I can show you my Libsyn thing, it's just like my downloads are just like slight up, and then just one day spiked.
Oh wow.
Let's see, but really, I don't know. I mean, I'm a big fan of Twitter. That's really been my number one thing, and then sometimes PR people get in contact with me or vice versa.
Oh, see, that's awesome.
Yeah, I have one PR dude I've been working with, Scott, and he's awesome, and he's gotten me the weird tech people that don't make sense to the show at all that people come out for, and that's kind of taken on. But I listen to a ton of podcasts, and the other thing I do is I recently. Actually, all the really good ones I've gotten through Twitter, but I also sign up for IMDb Pro for like a trial, and I can send you a list. I make a list of every PR agency I could find, and then just send cold emails of like who I am, little spiel, try to sell yourself, love to work with you, and take anyone that'll offer me and see if I can build a relationship. And
see, that's a good. See, I've done that before. I have probably 3 or 4 emails that I've used for those IMD trial accounts, and I go about it the wrong way. I look at like, all right, these are the people I want to talk to, and then I just copy and paste all their contact info, and then never really like. I actually have never really looked at it. Like I've done that like 3 or 4 times in the last like 6 years.
Yeah.
Because before this podcast, the other podcast I host could have interviews like if I wanted to. I just never really they were more like entertainment podcast or whatever. So that's a good idea, just like going after the PR agency
and then take whoever they'll give you. Like find Kevin Smith's PR guy, and you're not getting Kevin Smith or you're not getting Grant Grustin, but take their lowest level client. But I haven't really done that in all honesty. It's been like I'm really weird, so I'll like have a guest on. So if I have a guest in mind, all right. So there's a podcast I love called Going Off Track, and it has Stephen Smith from. He used to be on that show called Unfused, called Stephen's Untitled Rock Show. So I had this guy on who runs a site called Washed Up Emo, and then somehow I like tagged him and Jonah Bear in there from the show, and they responded. And then when I was just like, "Hey guys, I've had Tom Mullen on the show. Would you guys ever guest?" And they're like, "Sure." And for whatever reason, they said yes, and it actually happened. And you got to be persistent as shit with people, which like I just had Kyle Clark on from Nerdist, like not being braggy, but that took me like 9 months to set up. And that was just a simple, love to have you on the show sometime. And he said yes for some reason. And then just being persistent and polite. Persistence and politeness is the two things. Like, don't be a dick, but like be polite with people.
When I booked Aaron McGathy, who was the only one that was like, I feel was a hard get. Like I didn't think it was going to happen. Like I randomly hopped on. I was drunk one night and hopped on her website because it was right before she went on tour, with her podcast. And I went on her website, went to the contact page, and just flat out asked her. And then I woke up the next morning and I was like, that was I should have started out with someone that would if they said no, I wouldn't care. She's either not going to respond or she's going to say no, and it's going to be heartbreaking. And she responded and she said, absolutely would love to do it. CCing, this guy on who is helping me do all my stuff right now. And just work with him to get it scheduled out. And it was it was persistence in the fact that it took about 3 to 4 weeks to actually get it scheduled and ready to go. But I never kept on email. I was like, you know what? If it happens, it happens. I let them kind of, contact me. And he after 2 weeks, he said, "Oh yeah, just letting you know, we didn't forget about you. We're just really busy. Gonna get a hold of you next week to see what day works best." And that's what happened. And it was literally one of those things where how about tomorrow at 9 p.m. I'm like, okay.
Yep. That's the other part. You'll bend your schedule for someone you like that way more, right? I would when I interviewed the guy we talk about who, the reason I ended up in Huffington Post, I called work sick that day to make that interview work. I was like, I will do anything to make this happen. I will do 10 a.m. on a Wednesday.
Yeah, well, that's what I did finally find what I consider a good contact email for Kevin Smith, and I emailed a couple of different contacts that were through IMDb Pro, and like I was like, you know what, like these are just like view askew, like who's checking that email?
Oh yeah, I've written to that because I tried to get Mark Bernardin on here and I've had no luck.
Yeah, well, there's I don't. I'll say it and maybe I'll bleep it out, but they're like, she's on Twitter, and if you can find her Twitter account, her email is in her bio, or at least it was. And I emailed her, and I didn't get a response, but I also emailed him, like, I wanted to get him on for episode 37, obviously. And I emailed him like probably a month, if not less, before he had to go out and direct Flash. He was busy like promoting Yoga Hosers. So I emailed him. I emailed like at the wrong possible time to get him on the show.
Yeah, I guess it's time in a lot of it too, because for all the great people I have on, don't get me wrong, I'm happy, but I'm already just thinking of for every episode I think that comes out, there's got to be about 10 that I didn't come together for whatever reason, to the point, like I've had really cool people say yes, and then you just start booking and then they just stop responding, and that hurts. You're like, oh, this could have been so great.
And I what I really respect is the people that just come at like, and nothing against Kevin Smith or Jordan or anyone that runs that company. Like, yeah, I understand that you're busy, but I really respect the people that at least respond and say, no, I can't do it, or no, like whatever it is.
No one's ever told me no. I just get ignored, which I could deal with.
Oh, see. Yeah, I've had a 50-50 on the people that I don't book. It's usually 50-50 of I get ignored or I get I just get a flat out no. I would say it's probably actually starting to lean more towards being ignored. But I do every now and then get a response. And the people that I get a response from that say no are tend to be people that aren't necessarily high profile. I just have like a general interest in them, and they're like, well, I don't think I'm interesting, so I'm not going to do this.
Oh, don't you hate that with people? Like, no, don't be self-deprecating yet. Wait till we're on mic for that.
Yeah, I agree. It's and it is the toughest gig, but I'll tell you what, like, I'd say more than 70% of my guests are probably have been podcasters. I have to think that's correct, because mainly it's me hopping on Twitter and like somehow connecting through Podern Family or through the Philadelphia Podcasting Society, connecting to all these great shows and having them on. And I mean, it's definitely, my audience is definitely small, has to be smaller compared to yours. Maybe I'm working with your year 1 and year 2 numbers, but we're about to hit our 1 year anniversary in February 1st, and I think this episode is going to come out before then, because I'm going to make it come out before then. But we're planning, so we've done a live show for the Philadelphia Podcast Fest. That was in August. We did, and I think we talked about that on your show.
Yeah. That blew my mind. I was like, I think that's why I was like, your show is so huge. I'm like, you do live shows? Like, very rarely record with people in person. So I think that's the rule. Everyone thinks everyone else is doing something bigger, and the person doing anything just thinks they're just a nobody. And I think that's true.
I
Paul
agree.
McCartney or something.
I don't know. I know that like definitely like the higher profile people like a Paul McCarthy or like a Kevin Smith when it comes to podcasting, I know that they're very self-deprecating, but I mean they obviously know their numbers. Like they know that they're not shit. Now they might not think, like Kevin Smith is probably saying, well, fucking Mark Maron's much better than I am, versus, you know,
or like
that dude that runs there. Yeah, like whereas I'm comparing myself to literally every other interview podcast. But yeah, we did that one. We did the live show in New York Comic Con. I don't know when did we talk? Was that before the New York Comic Con show?
Oh God, yeah, it was. I'm trying to think, because when we record it and when it goes up, same with you, it's always 2 different dates. It could be like a month to 3 months away.
I'm pretty sure it was before. Spoiler alert! It happened. It was awful.
Oh no,
we had a good turnout, but what the way the way we booked it with another podcast and the way that podcast wanted to work. And I agreed with them. I was like, yeah, let's totally do something like, let's just reinvent the wheel. Let's do something cool, something different. And it was my fault because I kind of took the lead to direct the whole thing, and it did not come out the way I envisioned it. And I think everyone there enjoyed it, because it was, most of the people there were there for the other podcast. And I think as far as the audience was concerned, they loved it, but me, I haven't gone back and listened to it yet. I'm actually going to have to really soon because it's going to go up as a show. But for me as a podcaster, for wanting to do my show live, it didn't really turn out the way I wanted it to turn out. But I look at that as like same thing. I consider the Philadelphia Podcast Fest show that had failing moments in it. Like the first 20 minutes was, I think, a complete failure. And I took that and I learned from it, and I learned from the New York show. We went and did another live show in Philly, in mid-November, at a little small music store. And that was fun. It was probably the best. It was the best one I had as far as like how it went off. There was no audience there. We had a live stream going, so there was a lot of people watching live. But so as a live show, it didn't feel right because I wasn't able to interact with the people correctly. So, but we're doing another one on January 29th. We're putting together, in Philadelphia, we're going back to Tattooed Moms, where the Philadelphia Podcast Fest was. We're putting together the first Everything is Awesome podiversary show. And it's going to be me and 4 other podcasts just doing our show. And I'm still not, I mean, it's booked, but there's still so much work to do in the background.
And you book all
hopefully
this
by
stuff?
the time this posts. This one I did. This one I am booking. The Philadelphia everything else I worked with other people to get booked and whatnot. But this podiversary show is 100% me. I started off working with the people that put on the podcast festival in Philly, but like I guess they don't check their podcast festival emails often because like. At the beginning of this month or just the week before Christmas, I was like, I can't wait for them anymore if I'm going to do this. So I started emailing people on my own, and it's such an interesting thing to be on the other end of, like not just saying, hey, I want to do my show live. It's like, hey, I want to do my show live and have 4 other people with me, and I want to have sponsors, and I need to print out promo cards, and I need to get someone there to record the sound, and I need
Sounds very DIY.
It is, but like so Tattooed Moms, I cannot recommend them enough as far as like, if you're in the Philly area and you want to host some sort of event there, they were super cool. Like I told them what I wanted to do, and they're like, yes, please come and do it. I asked them, I was like, hey, and I don't know if this is going to happen. So, maybe I'll cut something in right here to let you know if it's definite or not. But, I asked them, I was like, what would it take for me to have like another company sponsor like a happy hour or like an open bar rather for like an hour or something? And they told me what it would take. And like, they're like, this is how you keep it cheap and keep it running as long as you can. And this is how you make people like really interested in it. And like, I'm like they're just holding my hands like the whole way through booking an event with them. And I say the biggest pain in the ass is almost the same thing that we encounter as podcasters booking guests. And that's like waiting for the response from people.
Oh God. Isn't that the worst? I hate when you send the email like, why aren't you responding right away? Then you're like, well, I get emails and I wait like a week sometimes. So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I sent all these emails like literally probably on the 22nd ish. So like 3 to 4 days before Christmas as I started emailing people, and like all the shows, actually to their credit, all the shows responded almost right away or within 24 hours to say if they could do it or not. Or like, hey, give me a date that you need to know by. And it's all the people that I'm like seeing, like they all were sponsors for the Philadelphia Podcast Fest. So I was like, hey, I'm doing that, but it's only one day. Please offer me your services and you'll be a sponsor. Like, I don't have any money. Please help me.
That's so cool. So there's like a podcast community in Philly.
Yes. It's, it's there's a page called the Philadelphia Podcasting Society, and it's very similar to I guess it's the Twitter, like Facebook version of Twitter's Pattern Family, except it's very localized. It is a lot of promo only stuff, but we actually just recently had a discussion there where, like, hey, you know, like, this has turned into nothing but marketing. Like, let's try to make this a community of people that want to help each other. And like we said, well, that like the reason that like I've listened to so many new shows is because of this page, because of all the mass marketing. So let's like keep that, but let's also incorporate, like, if you have a question, don't be afraid to ask it.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like a combination of Pattern Family and a combination of like the really good Reddit pages for podcasts, where like they welcome engagement and it's not just about mass marketing.
I leave those groups. That's cool. I think we need something like that here. Like, do you happen to listen to Crime Town?
No, but you may have told me about, because it sounds familiar.
It's relatively new, but it's by the people who made The Jinx on HBO, which I actually did not watch.
Oh, okay. No, I did not hear about this.
It's
but okay.
pretty new, but it's one of the bigger podcasts. But the reason I really like it, but it takes place in Providence, and that's where I live. And I'm just like, how can I capitalize off of this? Because I have no connection to this show, but there's the #1 podcast in the country at the moment, and it takes place where I live, and I have a Providence podcast. So I was like, how do I write to like the local paper to write about me? Like, I've been like, I want press, but I don't know how to go about that. Because like, you know, when I'm not doing this, like, this is my hobby. I have like a job that is unrelated to this completely.
Yeah.
So like,
that's the story of all podcasters.
Yeah, it's like, I'm like, I work in the mental health field, and like I'm married and kid on the way. So I'm like, I don't know. How do you someone write about me?
Congrats.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
It's, you know what, and the Philadelphia Podcast Fest, like, they got press, like they get like 3 to 5 like local like, whether it be actual papers and not like the big papers, but like papers, or like Geekadelphia, which is like a huge website in Philadelphia. Like, they have their own awards that are like, it's like crazy how Geekadelphia turned into like a one-man operation to like a legitimate like news source for the local geek nerdery things. And like, they have,
well, on the national scale, this is kind of oddly loosely related, but there has been a huge resurgence in small cities on every level of like economic development to like everything. But I think that also trickles down to like the nerds factor of like cons and podcasters and community, because like Philly or a Providence, or not even Boston, but like a New York, LA, Boston, Chicago are just so expensive. All the cool shit is leaving, and all the creatives are getting pushed out and coming to these small cities. And like, but they start these things like Geekadelphia because like a fucking ton of people live in Philly. Like, a lot of people live in near Philadelphia. Like, there's actual communities here. So like, I've been thinking that too. Is like, how can I start something here? Because I did this for a while solo. I had no idea there's other podcasts in Rhode Island. So there's some like meetup.coms, but I haven't really done those.
Well, it's like, so this is what I would do is because like, I would say a year before the Philadelphia Podcast Fest became a thing, like, I was starting to plan something, and it just never came to fruition, because I was thinking more convention like than like a festival. So I was like,
maybe I can go to Comic-Con. I was like, Comic-Con is not going to take me. I'm a nobody.
You could get like Artist Alley.
Yeah, actually, I did not know that until recently. I didn't even. This is how naive I am, to be honest. I didn't even know I can get press passes for my show. I'm like, my show's little, no one listens. And then I've had people have shows have like no listeners and go to like cons for free.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that when I used to get press passes, I was probably about the level I'm at now. But I consider that pretty low. Like, we don't have. It's not like we're getting like millions of downloads.
Oh, dude,
like,
we're happy to get thousands of downloads, like, or multi-thousands. Like, So
it's you can get you can definitely get press passes.
I didn't know that. I just found this out. Like, someone, my PR buddy guy, was just like, "Oh yeah, you didn't apply for PAX?" I was like, I couldn't get fucking passes to PAX. He's like, dude, you've had so and so and so and so on. They're going to be there. I'm sure they would have been considered. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. They're like, you didn't know you could do that? I was like, no, I'm a dude, I recorded in my bedroom on a laptop, and no one wants me to come to a con. Like, I guess there's that Connecticut. I'm from Connecticut, so everything's so self-deprecating.
Yeah. That's see. I live in the suburbs of Philly, and I feel like I'm the same way because we're like kind of like New York's little brother.
But no one in New York would ever say that. That's the worst part. That's such a Philly, right? That's everyone's like we're like New York light, except New York doesn't know that.
Yeah, no, care.
I mean, New York is cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be the first one to say an original idea, but like, it's getting to the point where like the stuff that makes it really cool is slowly disappearing. And
so
I love
when I went there
Philly and stuff like that. Like, I like small cities even more nowadays than I do like. I mean, I love going to New York. It's a wonderful time. I've been there so many times. It doesn't like mean anything to me. But like when I went to Philly a couple summers ago, I was like, oh my god, New York, parts of New York can almost feel like a Tokyo or something like anywhere in the world. But like when you go to like downtown Philly, I was like, I've never been anywhere that felt like Philly, and the food was dope, and is everything I love. I love all cities, but like I really loved it.
I feel like New York, like going there for I didn't go to Comic-Con, but going there for the live podcast, like I was like, you know, this is kind of dope for like a 1-day trip, but like I'd rather go to Philly.
Well, the part that like, the Javits Center is not, there's nothing to do around there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's Hell's Kitchen. I was in Hell's. You know, we were at.
Well, that's a cool spot, you know, because Daredevil.
Yeah. Well, and that was like I wore my Daredevil tie. I had this whole Daredevil bit, and it just failed. But like, yeah, we were in Hell's Kitchen. We were doing our show at the Producers Club in New York, and it was like I said, it was a cool
cocktails, $45.
Oh my god, yeah, and like I feel like going to New York, it just doesn't feel like there's room for indie, and I'm saying that as a person who doesn't live there.
Yeah,
so maybe there's.
I mean, I don't hang out in Brooklyn or anything. Obviously, great stuff exists there. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but like in Philly, it's very, very like indie friendly. I feel like there's a lot of indie, even like indie film isn't huge here, but like it's a thing. I mean, the podcasting scene is great. There's not. I feel like there should be more live events, and that's why I'm setting up the January event.
Go to live podcasts. I mean, I guess I did. I've never been to one, and I want to put one on all the time. But my always thing is like, no one's going to show up to it. But then I'm like,
it's
as a guest, and then I just stop.
Yeah, it's a very, I think, LA and New York thing because it is like they're big in the New York comic or the New York podcast.
Yeah, but even the New York Podfest is not that big compared to that. LA Podfest is like the big one.
Yes, that one's huge.
But they get bigger podcasts, and there's industry, and there's tourism. So like, I see why that could last. But yeah, I would like to go to that because I've actually never been to LA. I thought it'd just be cool to go. I've interviewed someone who goes every year for like his podcast, and actually, the reason I got in Huffington Post was because you should do this too. As I submit every so often, if I have a guest, I'll submit it to Splitsider, and that was always my goal, is to get on the This Week in Podcast on Splitsider because that's like my comedy Bible.
Okay.
I got on that. Wonderful gentleman named Mark Hershon, who has this great comedy podcast called Suskatach, where it's just clips of all different podcasts. But for whatever reason, the way he has it set up, he writes for HuffPo and Splitsider. So if he picks you, and he actually goes out of his way to pick indie podcasts, like small little guys like me and you for Splitsider, you automatically get on HuffPo. So like when I got on Splitsider, I was like, kill me now. This is the best I'll ever do. And unbeknownst to me, the next day it was on HuffPo. And I actually didn't care that much. I was like, oh, that's cool, Huffington Post. But then when I told my mother and I told my mother, my grandmother and stuff, I was talking to my grandparents, they freaked out because they don't know what Splitsider is. They're like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
But they know what Huffington Post is, and that somehow made it more valid to people who aren't part of the comedy community.
Yeah.
So I found the guy online and just wrote him like a thank you email, and then I invited him on my show. So my lesson here for anyone listening, just submit your show every week to Splitsider and submit your show to Saskatosh. Follow Mark Harshon because he is the nicest fucking dude in the world. But
that's interesting. Yeah,
he goes to the LA Podfest every year and he records a live one, and it's nice that there's actually someone out there who has a voice on a national level who's actually looking for a small podcast to help get the word out.
Yeah. Totally, and that's something like I guess my overall dream would be to get to that like Kevin Smith-esque level of podcasting.
Oh, if I could make this a career, whew.
Yeah. Oh God, it would be so good. But I also like, and I went on record. I think I recently. It's an episode that I think I posted today, where I was talking to Mike from Doom Thugs podcast.
I listened to that today. Is that the dude you recognized
Yes.
at a bar?
Yeah. Yep.
You must have made
and
his
it's weird
life.
because yeah, that's what he said. He's like, dude, you made it. Yeah. I'm gonna do a terrible impression, but he sounds kind of like Matthew McConaughey. He's like, all right, yeah,
But
man,
he had like a
you
little
totally
Boston
made
go
my
too.
day.
He almost like he's like, all right, oh no. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't do it. All right,
Yeah, his
park the car, park the car, park the car.
it was such an interesting act, and I would say for someone who lives like an hour west of me, it's like what it's such it blew my mind that he was like
Yeah, but
originally from
Pennsylvania,
up-
man. Once you go that far enough, you're almost Ohio.
but he's so close to no, dude, an hour west of me is like it's still Philly.
Oh,
Like,
really?
he's on the other side of Philly than me.
Yeah, no clue.
Yeah, Ohio is probably about an 8-hour drive from me. I live like I said in Philadelphia.
Your state
well,
is
outside
huge,
of
man.
Philly.
I
Yeah,
always
it is
confuse
awful.
Pittsburgh and Philly. So Philly's by Jersey, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that could be why.
Pittsburgh's by Ohio.
Oh wow, that's far.
And I actually just looked at it today. It now costs to drive from one end of the state to the other $40 in tolls. It is insane.
I live in the center of Rhode Island, and I can get to the Massachusetts in about 6 minutes, and Connecticut in under 40.
Oh wow.
Rhode Island's
Yeah,
that
that's yeah. See, that's one of the things I love about living in like the area that I live in, which is just northeast of Philly, is that pretty much within 2 hours I can get to wherever I want. That's pretty cool. Like I can get to Philly within an hour. I can get to New York maybe a little. Like if I take the train, definitely in under 2 hours.
Nice. Yeah.
I can get to the Jersey Shore in about an hour and a half. I can even get to like Virginia. Well, Virginia Beach is probably about 4 hours, but I can.
Oh, wow.
DC.
Do I get credit for not
DC is-
shitting on Jersey?
I mean, I shit on Jersey
Yeah, I mean,
all the time.
I'm not from there. I don't care. My wife's from
It's
there,
'cause-
and I've only been to the Jersey Shore a couple times, and I didn't really like it. But I like the rest of the state.
I hate driving through Jersey.
It
It's
is terrible.
It is but it's funny because I'll talk to people from Jersey and they're like, we say the same thing about you Pensy folks, and I'm like, that's crazy.
They're like,
We're
did you
good
just
at
call me Mike
driving."
Pence? He's from Indiana.
But well, okay, let's back on track. Find it. I don't know.
Something.
So yeah, I don't know. It's one of those shows where it's going to be crazy because I'm starting to drink, which is not good because I unlike you, I'm not on vacation. I go to work tomorrow,
Ugh.
so. But I sacrifice. See, this is like that's the thing. It's like you call out of work a lot. I usually just don't sleep so that I can.
I've only
stay
called
up late and
out
do
like
podcasts.
once or twice.
Okay,
That's only happened once. That was because it was the Simpsons writer guy. So I was like,
That's cool. Yeah.
and
Got
you
it.
should just hit him up on Twitter and ask him on your show. It's that easy.
Oh, okay. Wow. That it's crazy how like certain people you think it's that easy. Oh, and this is full circle. Now I remember where I was going with it. If I was telling Mike from Doom Thugs
that's
that
right.
if I ever get to that level of like people like come to me like often like an indie podcast like, hey, I just started a podcast and I want you to be a guest because like you're totally awesome. I would like
I will say
my
yes
goal
to
is to never
anybody.
say no. Yeah, that's my thing is like I'm hoping that when I get to that level of like whether I'm doing it for like a career or whether I'm like just kind of more known than I am now, I'm hoping I don't get to the point where I'm going to say no. Like it's going to be a yes, but like it's going to be a couple months before I can get to you, pal. You got to wait in line with all the others.
Oh my! Do you want to hear something that's probably really annoying for anyone listening, and it's not fair, but it's totally happened to me?
Okay.
So I'm a firm believer that little things lead to big things. Just little things lead to little things to little things. So
Yeah.
I ended up connecting with this gentleman on Twitter. His name is Jacob Haller, fellow podcaster. Turns out he lives in Providence. Nice guy. Episode comes out, no splash, but whatever. Months later, him and I had stayed in touch because he's just a cool guy. And Travis McAvoy, my brother and me, and like professional podcaster. He's got like a bajillion shows. Just throws out this innocuous tweet of like, whose podcast should I go on? So my friend Jacob's like, you should go on Let's Chat with Revill and Friends. And he said, sure.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was the episode where everything turned around for me, and I had nothing to do with it.
Oh, wow.
What
Yeah,
up is that? Like, it's not fair. That's not fair. Like, I guess it's just timing and luck. I don't even know who that guy was. So I was like, yeah, whatever. I guess you can come on. And I did my research.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't deserve this.
It's weird because I have like my three gets are Erin McGathy, and I think we may have talked about this on your show, but Erin McGathy.
Oh, I know who she is. This feels terrible.
Yep, and I got her on that. Like that's episode 20. I talk about it all the time. If you're a first time listener to Everything Is Awesome, I highly recommend going to episode 20 of this podcast and listening to it. I think my favorite part of that episode is that I hit record. That was one of the few Skype episodes that we had to do. So I hit record early and was sitting there waiting for her to get on. And it's like about a 3 to 5 minute pep talk that I give myself, and you can hear like the nerves.
Oh, yeah. I know that.
I did very little editing. I think there was one spot I cut out because it was a legitimate like 2 minutes of silence. So I cut some of that out. I probably cut it down to about 15 seconds of silence. But and then the intro goes off, and then I start talking, and like it's a little awkward in the very, very beginning because I did the first thing that I never did for any other episode, and that was write down a couple notes because I didn't want to forget some stuff. So it's a little awkward because I'm basically reading off a sheet, but then it kind of like it easily starts to roll into me being my podcasting Kev and not nervous Kev.
Yeah.
But that's a huge moment. Like that's 33.33% of the people that like I got on the show that like if they like I can't believe I got them on the show, I'm gonna die. And like I'm sure other people outside of these three that like are like a Chris Hardwick or like anyone from like the podcast you just mentioned. I've never listened to it, but I know they're big. Like I've been told to listen to it. Or anyone from like any like Mark Maron or any of these big names, like they're great gets, but like there's three that I before I retire I'm gonna get. And Aisha Tyler is one of them, and obviously Kevin Smith is another one.
Have you ever had someone on your show like? Or like maybe you have like I've had ones that like personally mean the world to me, and then nobody cares.
I want to say I want to say that's the Erin McGathy one. Like it's not many people I talk to like know who she is, which is weird to me because like and maybe it's because I've followed her since Harmontown basically.
Yeah.
But to me, she's like mega famous, and I think in a podcaster, like a true person that's not just a podcaster but a fan of podcasting, I think those people know who she is.
But outside of that,
I've talked to like one of my favorite people to talk to is Jason Ashley from Too Cool for Tabletop. He was one of the few that I had on early on. We had a lot of issues. I think it took 3 shots to talk to him before we got a recording actually recorded. And we've been in touch ever since. We still talk to each other. He's become a friend of mine. Like he's a guy who's like he does a podcast, but he's not like a podcaster. He does a tabletop podcast, so it's not about interviews. I don't think he knew who Erin McGathy was without a little bit of like explaining. But like he like because he's a fan, like he listens to maybe like let's say 5 podcasts, whereas like I'm so far behind. Like every day I get 5 hours more behind on my podcast.
Yeah.
It's just insane what I want to listen to and what I have time to listen to. Like I'd say the ones that I like, I'm a huge fan of If I Were You by Jake and Amir.
Oh
like,
yeah,
that's
like
been
College Humor was like a staple of my diet in their earlier, probably the era before the College Humor TV show came on. It was like right around before that time.
Oh yeah,
when I was in college.
Yes. when I should have been in college is when I was big. Like I don't think I think I stopped watching College Humor videos right before College Humor TV, because I didn't even really know about College Humor TV until I went back and
I watched the
revisited
show.
Jake and Amir.
The thing I didn't like about the show, and this probably isn't the people at College Humor's fault, I would imagine this is some executive's fault, was it was mostly videos that I had already watched on the internet and then a couple new things. And my guess is some executive didn't put together that people watching this have already watched, you know what I mean? Because, this is also the era where people weren't understanding that people watched. Large companies weren't admitting that people were watching things on the internet. So
yeah, like the term new media really wasn't around yet.
Yeah.
Like it was like YouTube was just kind of becoming a thing. And
did you watch Derek Comedy at all?
A little bit. Let me tell you something about Derek Comedy.
I mean, Lando Calrissian, who knew?
Yeah, exactly. But there is actually Garrett Smith, who was our first ever guest on this show. He was also my stand-up comedian we had for the Philadelphia Podcast Fest. After he did his set on that, we discussed our first meeting, and I was more shock jockey back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And when I met him, we were more of a shock jock podcast until him and I did our own thing, which was much more nerdy, much more what this show is, except with a permanent co-host.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that was that spelling bee skit that was huge, back in the day. And me and my friends would, being the racy people we would never we would try to avoid dropping the N-bomb.
Smart.
We would say pineapple instead. And being a fan of Derek Comedy, I think you know what that means. From the spelling bee one.
I don't know if I ever saw that one, to be honest. I'm thinking
back. Oh my God.
I'll Google it afterwards.
It is yeah, just Google it. It's like racist. It is but I mean, it's Donald Glover doing it, so it's not. It's one of those things. Like now, I look back at it, I was like, is it racist for me to laugh at this because I'm white and privileged? And,
well, good comedy makes you think, and if that's your train of thought, you're probably not.
Yeah, it was one of the funniest things I ever watched. The spelling bee. Look, Google that tonight. Yeah, spelling bee. Derek Comedy.
Used to watch Bro Rape a ton.
Oh yeah, I remember that one too.
And then they had one called Opposite Day where they got the boss to kill himself, which was kind of fucked up.
I don't think I saw that one.
The Bro Rape. They're all escaping me, but Bro Rape was probably their most popular.
That's a big one. Yeah, that's a big one. I think I watched that one and the spelling bee one. They were the two big ones for me.
Yeah, those were and then Lazy Sunday was big when I was in college. SNL started doing their digital short stuff. That stuff.
Yes.
That's how I started. Yeah, that was. God, the first time I saw that, I fucking laughed so hard. I was I lost it. I was like, you could be this funny and make music at the same time.
Yeah, I and whenever they still do stuff, it still gets me. It's one of my favorite things is the Michael Bolton Pirates Caribbean thing. That's one of my favorite ones. I mean, Dick in a Box is still a classic. Doesn't get much. I'll tell you what. It was that episode of Saturday Night Live where Justin Timberlake was the hosting that made me realize that Timberlake was a talented motherfucker. I know,
because I hated him because of NSYNC and boy bands, and then I saw that I was like, huh. So here's a conundrum for you. So this is how popular I want to say those Lonely Island videos are. I think the reason now we get on a boat and we don't make a reference to Titanic is because of Lonely Island. Because now when I get on a boat, I go, "I'm on a boat, motherfucker." So
yeah, you're
Titanic. Right. So I don't know how you measure that in dollars and cents, but that's that. I mean, there was 15 years where you couldn't go anywhere near a boat with going, "I'm king of the world," because I'm that kind of guy.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, I don't go on boats often, but
No, me neither.
you're right.
But if I were to, that would happen.
I'm thinking if I were to go on a boat, I think I'd say I'm on a boat, motherfucker.
I would be singing the "I got my flippy floppies" on the way to sing.
Yep.
Yeah, because that's how popular that was.
I agree. It's like that's our daily life now is new media is I mean I still watch regular TV.
I only stream. But to me it feels the same as cable. Like I was at my parents for the holidays, Christmas, and I'm going through their cable. I'm like Dad, this sucks. You pay all this money and there's just nothing on. So I end up going on as like Netflix. So I have Netflix, Hulu, I steal HBO Go, I have Amazon Prime, I steal FX. So I do watch cable shows. I just steal the apps to watch I steal my in-laws' cable account to watch all this fun stuff. Yeah. So I mean, I'm no hero.
Well, and that's I think the big problem with cutting the cord is that it's in order to watch,
you got to steal.
Yeah, in order to stream any of the stuff that's on cable, you need to either have a cable account or you need to steal it, or like HBO now has
you can pay for HBO. Yeah,
I think you can pay for HBO,
which I think
separately.
is worth it personally.
Yeah, and if you're, I mean, we still have cable because like the kids, and even that, I'm starting to think all they watch now is Netflix. It gets rare that we put on the TV for them. What
about Sling? Have you thought? I've thought about jumping onto the Sling TV board.
No, I mean, you know what, that's where I'm 32.
Me too.
And I think, okay, so maybe I'm just more, maybe I just because I have kids, I'm even older in my mind because I know I've heard of Sling, it's been out for a long while, and I remember it just being a thing that you had so that you could watch your cable remotely, but it's more than that now, right?
Well, so I don't have it, but my coworker swears by it, and he basically said it's $20 a month and you get X amount of cable channels that you could stream through your Roku or Google Chromecast or something like that. So it's basically cable that you stream. You might want to look into it. Maybe there's more to it, but he gets A&E and TBS. I don't know if you get to well, I guess the dream for everyone's always wanted was cable to be a la carte, because the way cable works is you pay X amount of dollars and all this, $4 goes to BSPN, $1 goes to C-SPAN or whatever it is. But I don't watch ESPN or I don't watch I only want maybe 30 of the 700 channels that they offer, and there's no way to pick. So maybe Sling is kind of doing that, because if up to me, I mean, because I kind of do that now. So I have TBS, FX, HBO, USA, CW is now putting everything on their apps, so I watch that on my TV. Because I would pay for cable, but I just don't want ESPN, and I don't want. But I would love if to put on AMC and see a Breaking Bad marathon, that would be a joy.
Yeah, well, see, for me, IMC is a big one, BBC America, and CW. They're my CW, three big stations.
Hey, you know what show kind of grew on me, which I didn't expect to ever say out loud, because now I think I watch 6 CW shows. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Oh, I don't watch that.
No, me neither. My wife does, and I've kind of come in and out, and I'm like, this is really good.
I actually, there's someone that I talk to somewhat frequently who I think, was she a guest on it? I think she was a guest on it, but there's someone else who, I don't know, episode 50, which I think will air after this. I think it will be probably an episode or two after this. Episode 50, for episode 25, we had Batman. So I wanted to do something equally as awesome for episode 50. So we're going to have Thor on for episode 50. Now, spoiler alert, Batman for episode 25 was me. I just sat down and had a conversation with myself for 45 minutes.
God, you are amazing. This is why your show's better, because I would never put any of that kind of effort into anything.
I sat in my car recording on my phone. I'm telling you, Voice Record Pro 7 is the greatest app in the world, because it records at a high quality and it sounds great. And I was sitting in a Wawa parking lot talking to myself. Oh God,
how Jersey, Philadelphia is this conversation now? Wawa. We don't have those up here.
Yep. But you know what? You will one day, I feel
we used to,
in Florida
closed.
now. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I do remember that. I do remember them being up there.
Is that the one where you
maybe
get a sandwich from a computer, or is that Quick Check?
Yep. It is maybe Quick Check as well, but it's definitely Wawa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely Wawa.
I remember being in that like upstate New York / New Jersey, Pennsylvania border area, like very high at very late hours of the night, volunteering at a summer camp that will remain nameless in case they hear this, which who knows. And being like so confused by the computer, like I was like high to the point like almost hallucinating and like not understanding what was happening. I'm like, what? Are the robots coming alive? And having to be walked
Not
through
only is it second nature to me because I live in the area, I used to install them.
Oh,
so
God,
like
you are my fucking god right now.
I know how it all works in the background too.
I was like, sorry, I was going off track.
Yeah, so I was in the parking lot going back and forth between my voice and my Batman voice and whatever. That's my Batman's much better than that normally. And going back and forth talking to myself to the point where like Batman got angry. Naturally, wasn't planning on this, but Batman got angry with Kev. Opened the door and slammed it, and as Kev, I started commentating him running away through the parking lot across the street and whatnot.
Is that like your Gallagher episode of WTF, except you pissed off Batman as yourself?
I don't listen to WTF, but yes, that is.
How are you not submitting this shit to Splitsider, man? That's like the show I do and we do, I think is great. Don't get me wrong, but like our shows are kind of a dime a dozen. So anytime you can present a podcast that's doing something different, I feel like they're more likely to write about you.
See, I should submit that episode because that episode was so fun to me. And then so it's I'm not Thor. I'll put that out there. But there's an actor who was on an episode or two of My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I'm almost positive it was that show that I got a hold of him because he cosplays as Thor. Oh. And I said, listen, I promise you that I will have you on later as yourself so that you can like have meaning to your life. Mm-hmm. But can you please do episode 50 as Thor? It'll be 45 to 60 minutes tops. So we're going to be sitting down in about a week and a half. And I'm going to be talking to Thor. It's going to be amazing.
That's so great. I've been trying to do this thing of having people who have small parts and big things, like and I don't know why, but those downloads are way above my normal numbers. So that's my new thing. I've been trying. I have a couple. One came out today. One comes out next week. I've had a couple in the past, and it's so maybe when that will happen for you, you'll be like, you'll be like, really? Because I don't know. Maybe just someone needs to see like Luke Cage or Crazy Ex-Girlfriend to pull them in, and then they listen. So who knows? Maybe I hope he gets big numbers from that when he comes out as himself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just think it's so like that all stems from. Now I don't listen to Steve Austin's podcast as often as I used to.
Is it good?
But I love it. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great podcaster. I think he's a great interviewer. I think he's a great conversationalist. The problem is that like. He releases 2 episodes a week now, a lot like Jericho. Jericho is does he? I don't know if Jericho releases. I think Jericho releases 2 a week as well. But Jericho is, Talk with Jericho or whatever it's called is a fantastic podcast. They're both, these wrestlers that do podcasts are fucking, that's what they should be doing when they retire.
Yeah.
Is going into radio, going into something, because they're all really good at it. But there was an episode that Austin did where he wrestled a fly, like an insect fly. And I forget exactly how it went down. I'm pretty sure it just was like he talked it out, him and the flies wrestling match. But like it's that kind of like that's what inspired me doing the Batman episode and also the Thor episode.
And creative.
Oh my god. Yes, it was. When I heard that, I was like, and like it built up like over a couple episodes. He built to it. It was pretty amazing. So I'm trying to incorporate more things like that, especially so like as I'm preparing to go into my second year of. So I've actually been recording for more than a year. We started recording in October of 2015, but I didn't start posting until February of 2016.
Why'd you wait that long?
I wanted to have a catalog. I wanted to have like 8 episodes
so
recorded,
smart.
so that when if I missed a week, it wasn't a big deal or whatnot. But that actually, like, it's a good idea. It's a great idea, I think. But like, it also made it so like I was just recording like 4 or 5 interviews. Within the span of 2.5 weeks, I was spending way too much time recording.
Yes.
So I'm kind of like I think I'm happy with what my reserve is right now, and including this interview and a couple more that I have scheduled in the next week or two. But I want to get back to recording 1 a week so that I can keep my sanity. That's the problem, is that when I do too much, it's just like, and if I miss one thing, like when my uncle passed away, I didn't post for, I meant to only take the month off, and I ended up taking almost all November off and almost all of December off. And like I'm playing, because I want to meet my numbers.
Yep.
As far as episode numbers are concerned, like, I'm posting, like, I posted 2 episodes today. I want to post probably 2 episodes tomorrow. And I think that will catch me up to what I should be posting for tomorrow anyway.
See,
I'll post that one up front.
On ourselves and for absolute if I don't post an episode,
no
nothing
one cares.
happens.
Yeah, no one fucking cares.
Nope.
But
I care.
And that's like kind of my. Yeah, and like my 2017 goal, my 2017 goal is to be more consistent. Like, post on Wednesdays, every Wednesday, and do it by midnight. Like, do not let it go, so I don't have to edit and post it like on my lunch break at work or whatever. Because then I'm not getting it up till about noon, and I know it doesn't really matter, but like my going on 9.5 years now, like it's always been posted at midnight. And I try, now that especially now that it's all do it yourself, it's all me. I have no one else on this shit but me. It does not happen all the time. It usually waits until Wednesday morning and then goes up Wednesday afternoon.
I'm a big Sunday nighter. Doing it all.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Carly, who runs the network. I'm on Core 10 Bart's network, which I love. And so I have posted consistently. I missed a week. The first week of January, I didn't post an episode of 2016, and I've posted every week on Monday since then. I do some like random bonus episodes. So I was looking through my episodes for the year because I was doing like doing a best of kind of thing, and I was like, oh man, I've only I was like, I didn't even put I was talking to her. I'm like, I didn't even put out 60 episodes this year, and she's like, Chris, there's only 52 weeks in the year. You shouldn't even come close to that. She's like, you missed 1 week. So I ended up putting like 50 something out, maybe 55 this year. And I was like, oh, that's nothing. And she's like, that's a lot. I was like, oh yeah, I guess it is.
Well, and we are technically like over our 52 mark already, I think, or at least what I have recorded, and that should be going up. I know by the time we hit episode 52, 53, whatever you consider your year mark, we will technically, with the bonus episodes we've done, because I've done a couple like 0.3 or 0.5 episodes.
Oh, you get really into the numbers, huh?
Oh yeah, like there's like weeks that felt like there was a week that I posted like 3 times. So like Wednesday was episode 16, Friday was episode 16.3, and then that Monday was episode 16.6.
Oh yeah, I used to really care about that, but iTunes always fucks it up, so I just stopped doing the numbers and did the names only.
Oh yeah, no, I still they've been pretty good with me thus far. So I still do it. But I've also now in August, every year, this year was the first year we did it. We're going to start doing a Robin Williams special. So that one's like a not numbered episode. I wanted to do a Christmas special this year. I just didn't have time to sit down and record it, but that's going to be a numbered episode. So, and now, and I guess we're going to segue into this now. Likely next year I'll start doing a Carrie Fisher special.
Because she died today.
All right, we're going to cut the show right there. Chris will be back with us next week for episode 52. One more episode after that until we get to our big 1-year anniversary anniversary show that we're recording live on January 29th, 2017. We're going on at 3 p.m., but it's a whole event from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. We're going to have 5 awesome shows, A Quest for Magic and Steele, 25 o'clock pod, Party of One podcast, Full Belly Laughs, and everything is awesome. It's going to be a fun day. I can drop some news now that I've been talking about in the past. We got SpareMin as a sponsor. You know this already. And they've hooked us up with some cash so that we can have an open bar starting at 3 p.m. Bottles and draft only. But it is a open bar that we're going to have on the 29th, starting at 3 p.m. when we go live. We're also having all day for the event from 1 to 6, a specially drink just for our event called the Awesome Bomb. It's going to be, well, awesome, I guess. I'm really excited for how all this is coming together. And one last thing that I want to talk about is another new sponsor / partner, we'll say, getting involved with this show, this event. And that is the fine folks over at Fuck Cancer. You guys know how much this organization means to me. They were the first thing I thought of when my uncle was diagnosed. At this point, about a year ago is when I found out. When this is releasing, it was probably maybe a day or two longer, but practically 365 days ago, we found out that my uncle was diagnosed with cancer. And you know the story. It was a great recovery up until about August or so, when he was actually the day before the Philadelphia Podcast Fest is when I found out that the cancer had come back last year. And obviously that you've heard me talk about it. We unfortunately lost him in November. So Fuck Cancer became like a big part of my life, is a big part of my life. I support what they're doing, and we were able to chat with them, and they're on board. This event is now more than just celebrating this dopey show's dopey anniversary. It's more than that now. This event, all 5 shows are coming together to not only celebrate that, but to help raise money for Fuck Cancer. If you want more information about the organization, you can go to letsfcancer.com. That's letsfcancer.com. They are a tremendous organization. They use humor and wit to help educate people about health. Their goal is to help prevent cancer, help early detection, and help unite people and support those affected by cancer, not just the people themselves, but their families. And I think that's super important. They have a lot of cool campaigns, Be Heard, Not Us, where they're looking for this generation to eliminate cancers caused by HPV for future generations. They're looking to eliminate those cancers. It's just amazing work that they're doing. I'm so happy that they're on board for this first one, and we're hoping to help create more events in the Philadelphia area together, at least on an annual basis. So it's super cool. So excited to have them on board. It's going to be a fun event to celebrate the anniversary of our podcast, but more importantly, to help raise money towards, fighting cancer with Fuck Cancer. That being said, I also need to say, so happy that we're now our second week in, part of the Core Temp Arts podcast network. Chris with his podcast, Let's Chat with Revill and Friends. He is part of that network. He is part of the Core Temp Arts podcast network, and he sold me. He said, here's the information. They like your show. Like, come on board. And I talked to him. I talked to Carly, who runs the network, and I'm so happy to be part of this podcast network family. So check out our show. We're always going to be on awesomepodcast.com, but you can always go to coretemparts.com to check our show out and other great shows. That's all I have for you this week. Remember, January 29th from 1 to 6, our show will be on at 3. We're going to have 5 great podcasts from 1 to 6 doing their thing live. We're going to be there to celebrate our podcast birthday, raise money for Fuck Cancer. It's going to be a good day. Core Temp Arts and Chris is awesome. We'll be back next week with part 2 of my conversation with Chris right here on awesomepodcast.com and core10parks.com.
Everything is Awesome is part of Courts and Parts, a podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows like TV Ate My Brain, Let's Chat with Revill and Friends, and Podstalgic at courtsandparts.com.